How have your experiences shaped the roles you've played and the roles that you've turned down?
Well, thank you, JV, for inviting me. I'm so excited to be there on the first in person. And I'm really honored that you selected American Like Me as the common read. That's very, very exciting news to me. Um, that's a great question. I think that my own life experiences have informed the trajectory of my career in conscious ways and in voluntary ways and also in involuntary ways. I think part of being an actor and being in front of the camera uh, is about exactly who you are and what you bring to the table. And I think in the beginning for my career, that seems like a real obstacle, something that was a detriment to my career because there weren't a lot of opportunities for someone like me. But as my career continued and as I was lucky enough to find the opportunities that I did, I realized something that I talk about in my TED talk actually, which is that my identity is not an obstacle. My identity is my superpower. My identity is what makes me powerful and useful in the world. And so the more and more I embraced my own actual identity, the more meaningful everything became for me in my career.
Absolutely. I love the superpower reference that you just made. And I want to pick up on that as we talk a little bit about your book, American Like Me. Reflections on Life Between Cultures is our Buffs One read this year. And we can't wait to have you join us in September. In your book, you reflect on your identities. What advice would you give our students about how to be true to themselves while exploring and learning in a new environment?
Yeah, well, that's the $1 million question, I think, especially in college, right? I remember all too freshly my first year, my first couple years in college, and how it does feel like a reinvention. It feels like you're in a new place with new people, and you could be anyone, and you could choose anything. And I guess we can talk about this more in person as well. But I guess if I could go back and say to my young self, you know uh, uh, give her any piece of advice as she was starting her journey in school, it would be to go easier on herself,
Mm.
to be okay with not knowing everything all the time about exactly who you want to be and exactly what you want to do and exactly what you like and who you like. It's going to change, and you know I guess I would say to younger me, like, relax a little bit and enjoy the ride, and nothing is forever, and just trust yourself, trust your instincts, and enjoy it, and know that most experiences, good or bad, at the end of the day help inform you and help you know who you want to be and who you don't want to be, and it isn't all so serious, is what I would say to my younger self.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thinking a little bit about all the hats that you've worn um, in such a tough and challenging industry, how do you deal with failure? You just sort of alluded to it a second ago, but I would love the audience to hear about how you've dealt with that, how you've been successful, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Well, failure doesn't feel good. But I think it's all about perspective. It's all about how, for me, I choose to come away from an experience, uh, assessing, what was useful to me there. What did I learn? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about other people? And um, how is that gonna send me in the next direction? How's that going to help me, the next time around? And I think that and I'm obviously probably preaching to the choir here, but the
Mhm.
more you live, the more you work, the longer you live, you realize that very little is ever really over, right? And very little is ever really irreversible. It's like this journey of discovering ourselves, hopefully goes on forever, and the friends you make, the colleagues you work with, the schools you go to, the experiences you have, are never really finite. They're they're experiences and relationships that circle back around, that go up and down and in and out. And what feels like a failure in one moment, somewhere down the line, can feel like protection, right? It could feel
Right.
like fate. It could feel like exactly the right thing for you, even though it didn't feel good at the time, to head you in a new direction, or to set you up for what you didn't even know was waiting for you further down the road. So, while it never feels good, um, I think the thing I've learned is that we have the power of choosing our own perspective of what it feels like when something doesn't turn out the way we expected it to.
Absolutely. I love that response about perspective. In fact, I was talking to some students about that earlier. So this fits right in with the direction that we're heading with our students. Thinking back though to your experience at USC, and what is one of your most defining or memorable moments? And by the way, we play USC on October 2nd. So but talk about your experiences at USC. What do you remember the most about being an undergraduate student there?
Wow. To be perfectly honest, I have so many memorable experiences, but the most overwhelming experience that comes back to me in memory was my first year of college, and how confused I was, and how lonely I felt, and how sad I felt most of the time, and how, you know, learning, learning more than I ever had, learning about the world beyond what I'd ever been exposed to before going to college was overwhelming and daunting sometimes. And I felt like, how would I ever catch up? How would I ever keep up? How would I ever, know everything there is to know to compete, right? And to be worthy of the other kids in this school, or what my teachers expected of me. And I remember it feeling really hard and really heavy. And I think that that's a really valid experience. That when everything in your world changes so drastically, like where you live and who you live with and who you talk to and what you're learning, that's a shock to the
Yeah.
system. And so, you know, I think most people, talk about your college experiences, and they talk about all the good stuff, right? And how exciting it's going to be, and how fun, and you're going to make all these friends, and you're going to learn all these things. And that can certainly be true. And at the same time, it can be hard. And so I know for me, my experience got better, or I really got through those tougher moments by reaching out, and by trying to 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 find one or two professors or students or clubs that where I could see myself reflected. And even though it was really tempting to isolate and go more and more inward, really the only thing that helped me emerge was reaching out and exploring, all the new social possibilities, even though it wasn't always comfortable.
Fantastic. I'm going to ask you one more quick question because I know we're about at time, but I have to get this one in since we're talking about transition and college experiences and things of that nature. You know, college is a huge life transition for most people. What advice would you give to CU Boulder students on how to make the most of their college career?
This is going to sound contradictory, but it's not, I promise. I think that to make the most of, and to appreciate, and to truly understand the gift of being a college student, it is so important to get out of the classroom, to get off campus, get a job if you can get a job, volunteer, tutor, intern. Don't forget to experience life outside of the college bubble, so that you never take the opportunity of college for granted. And I think for me, that those were the experiences that constantly reminded me how lucky I was to be sitting in a college classroom and what a gift it was for my job to get an education.
America, I love that advice. And I know again that you're going to be with us on September 1, but this time has been invaluable. And I want to thank you for the time that you spent with us today. We're looking forward to September 1 and seeing you here on our campus. And we're going to have a fantastic time. I know you're going to do well for our students as well. So, with that being said, we're going to let you go. So, thank you again for joining us.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
Take care.